Now, as you develop scripts in PHP, you're going to want to be able to create your own variables to store various information. In order to create your own variables, you need to understand the proper syntax. To create appropriate variable names, you have to follow these rules. The first thing is that all variable names must start with the $sign. Following the $sign, the variable name must begin with either a letter or an underscore. You cannot follow the $sign by a number. The rest of the variable name can contain any combinations of letters, underscores, and numbers. When creating variables, you cannot use spaces within the name of a variable. Instead, you want to use the underscore, or you'll want to use camel casing. Every variable that you use has to have a unique name. And do note that variable names are case sensitive. If you write the exact same name, but you capitalize one and you lowercase another, PHP is going to see those as two different constructs. It also is a bad idea to name variables with the same name, whether they have upper or lowercase letters within them. One of the most common mistakes that people make is they get the wrong letter casing when naming variables. When you misspell a variable's name, including its case, you're going to get undesired and unpredictable results. So in summary, I recommend that you always use all lowercase variable names unless you're going to be using camel casing, which is what I prefer to do. You also want to make your variable names descriptive. So if you were going to make a variable called first name, it's better to actually write out first name rather than write fn. For instance, if I put fn, later on when someone comes and looks at my script, they're not going to understand what this is. But if I write first name, then someone's going to always understand what this is. It's also a good idea to use comments to indicate the purpose of variables. Even though sometimes that might seem redundant, it can definitely be helpful later on. When you properly document the purpose of variables along with using meaningful names, you'll be well on your way to being a professional programmer. These are all examples of good variable names. As you can see from some of the variables that I have listed here, I'm using camel casing, I'm using just a name, here I'm using camel casing again. This variable is being assigned a string value, this one's being assigned a numeric value, this is using the underscore method, and this one is starting with an underscore, and then also using an additional underscore to separate the names. Unlike some other languages, PHP doesn't require you to declare or initialize a variable prior to use, although PHP does issue warnings when you do. In other words, you can refer to variables without first defining them, but it's best practice not to do that. Try to write scripts so that every variable is defined or validated before use. Once you've created a variable, if you want to use it on your page, you can use one of the many PHP functions to be able to display the variable. We already looked at the print function. Now I'm going to introduce you to the echo function. If I go ahead and say echo, and in this case I'm going to say echo first name, I'll also make another echo, and here I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to echo average temperature. Because these are variables, I have to go ahead and put the $sign in there so that PHP knows that they're a variable. If I list both of these things and we view this page in the browser, you can see that it's going to display Emily and then 73. It does go ahead and place these together, and that's because the values don't contain any spaces. If I included a space inside my name variable and I save, and we now go and look at this in the browser, that space is now going to be printed to the page as well. And as I mentioned, the echo function is very similar to the print function. The differences are very small. Echo has no return value, while print has a return value of 1, so print can be used inside of expressions. Echo can also take multiple parameters, although that is rarely used. Print can only have one argument. Echo tends to be a little bit faster than print, but for what we're doing, it doesn't really matter. You'll see us using both print and echo throughout this course.